Today, let's talk about the evil that lurks in the heart of man. And I'm going to read you from Genesis chapter 42, verse 21, which says this. Then they said to one another, "We are truly guilty concerning our brother, for we saw the anguish of his soul when he pleaded with us, and we would not hear. Therefore, this distress has come upon us." The brothers of Joseph had treated him terribly. Their jealousy was understandable because Joseph, their little brother, was obviously favored by their father. They hated Joseph so much that they beat him and sold him as a slave to some desert wanderers who were headed towards Egypt. Through the years, their conscience may have quieted, but it never died. When problems came with their dealings in Egypt, they thought that this mess before them was because of the way that they treated Joseph many years before, and their conscience was pricked. Now, was this a good thing? Probably. The quickness with which they associated those events with their sin against Joseph probably meant that they remembered their sin against him. After all, there's not a completely logical connection between the current situation that they had visiting in Egypt and their previous treatment of Joseph, but a guilty conscience will often see every trouble as sin's penalty. I read somewhere that the United States federal government has something called the Federal Conscience Fund, which collects money that people send in because they know that they've cheated the government in some way. People have sent in money because they took army blankets for souvenirs, or they cheated on postage or on their income taxes. But our consciences are notoriously weak and corrupt. One man wrote the IRS and he said this, "I cheated on my taxes and I can't sleep at night. Here's a check for $100. If I still can't sleep, I'll send the rest of the money I owe." Now, some people have described the conscience as the sundial of the soul. It tells time well enough when there's light, but in darkness, it's of no use. At night, you could shine a flashlight on a sundial and make it read any time that you wanted it to. Now, when the light of God's word shines on our conscience, it's reliable and trustworthy. Otherwise, our conscience can deceive us. It can be like a circus-trained poodle dog. You whistle once and it stands up. You whistle twice, it rolls over. You whistle a third time and it plays dead. So friend, when you get into trouble, do you quickly think that it is some kind of payback for a sin that you've committed? Do you live under the burden of a guilty conscience? I want you to know Jesus Christ can change that. Hebrews chapter 9, verse 14 asks the right question. I'm quoting that verse now. "How much more shall the blood of Christ, who through the eternal Spirit offered himself without spot to God, cleanse your conscience from dead works to serve the living God?" If you need a conscience cleaning today, talk to Jesus about it. He's a specialist in the procedure, and he'd love to hear from you today.